Northwest Community Council meeting. 7:02, so we'll call this meeting to order. The Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes we are all treaty people. So good evening, everyone, to this virtual meeting. We're going to do a little bit of a roll call. I'm Councillor Pam Lovelace, representing District 13 as chair this evening. And I'd like to introduce our vice chair, Councillor Lisa Blackburn. Let's do a little check, see if we can hear you okay.
Hello and good evening from beautiful downtown Beaverbank.
Wonderful, thank you. Deputy Mayor Kathy Daigle-Gammett, you are here and looking fantastic. How you doing?
Good evening, everybody. Yes, all set and ready to go. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Paul Russell, great to see you, Paul.
It's great to be here on the shores of First Lake.
Nice. And Alpha Tim Oathead, how are you doing tonight?
I am here coming to you by phone because I'm having computer issues, but I think you unfortunately can see and hear me, you said so.
We're good. We're good. You sound okay.
Well, that's
No,
the
you sound fine. We also have our solicitor with us this evening, Megan Carlson. Megan, do you want to just do a little sound check?
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Perfect. Thank you. Krista Vining, she is here this evening. Hello, Krista, clerking for us. And we also have a public speaker support. Simon is here somewhere. Simon, yes, Simon is there. So Simon will help our virtual speakers who are going to be speaking tonight. So first order of business, folks, is the approval of the minutes for April 15th, 2024. Are there any errors, omissions from those minutes that anyone noticed? If not, I'll just call for a motion.
So moved.
So moved.
So moved by Deputy Mayor Daigle-Gammett, seconded by Councillor Outfit. Thank you for that. Call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion has carried. Approval of the order of business and approval of additions and deletions. So, Madam Clerk, do we have any additions or deletions for this evening's agenda?
There are no additions or deletions from the clerk's office.
Wonderful, thank you. Councillors, are there any additions or deletions, any movement and shaking going on for this evening's agenda? All good? Wonderful.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm just wondering, should we move number 12, public participation, up on the order of business? I don't know if that creates chaos and havoc for the clerk's office, but
We do have a speaker signed up for public participation. Do we know if that speaker is available, or is that speaker available later on in the evening? Madam Clerk.
Just a moment. The public participation speaker has not entered the meeting as of yet.
Okay.
We do
Okay.
have the two members registered for the public hearing that are present. And I would recommend starting with the public hearing as advertised and then moving into public participation, but it is at your discretion how you wish to proceed.
Okay, well, thank you. Knowing that we do not have the public participants to speak, we'll move on then. So may I have a mover and a seconder, please?
I will move the acceptance of the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Blackburn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? That motion is carried. We have an order of business. Thank you so much for that. Business arising out of minutes this evening, there are none. Call for declaration of conflict of interest. Council members, do you have any declarations conflict of interest? Seeing none, we move on to motions of reconsideration, none. Motions of rescission, there are none. Consideration of deferred business, none. And notices of tabled matters, there are none this evening. So moving on to 10.1, public hearings. We do have a plan out 2023-00382. This is development agreement for 1562 Sackville Drive, Middle Sackville. This was the former case 24-327. And we do have Daryl Jodry, who is a planner too. who has a presentation for us. Madam Clerk, do we have Daryl? And yes, Daryl, I see you. Can you?
Thank you,
I
Madam
can't hear
Chair.
you. There you are. I can hear you now. Wonderful. So I'm
Uh,
going to throw this over to you to pull up your presentation, please.
Okay, I'll share my screen.
Thank you. Okay, Daryl, I think you might want to go back a couple of screens to the
Yeah.
beginning. Yeah, but we can see it. So that's a good first step.
You just don't seem to be moving here.
Daryl, if you'd like, if you want to stop sharing, we can have our staff share the presentation.
Okay,
Yeah, that's no problem. It just seemed to be frozen there. So we'll get Krista or Simon or someone to put that on the screen. Thank you.
Maybe pour some hot water on that computer to melt it.
Yeah. Good advice, Counselor. All right, there we go. There's the screen. Take it away, Daryl. Thank you.
great. Thank you. The public hearing this evening is for planning application 2023-00382, a development agreement for 1562 Sackville Drive. Advanced screen, please. The proposed development is located at 1562 Sackville Drive in Middle Sackville, and the applicant is W.M. Ferris Architects. The proposal is for a 6-story multiple unit building with 98 residential units, internal and external amenity spaces below grade, and surface parking in the rear. The type of application is a development agreement. Advance, please. These two slides show the site context. The slide on the left-hand side is an overall view of the site surrounded in the red circle, sitting within the development pattern of Sackville. You can see that Margeston Drive shows up quite clearly within the circle, and the site itself is outlined in a thinner red at the corner of Sackville Drive and Margeston. With you can kind of make out the court coming in there. And the slide on the other side is showing an up-close image of the site, where you can see it is at the end of Reg A Court, and quite an irregular shaped slide that actually fronts on Sackville Drive, but is not being developed from Sackville Drive. And Krista, the slides, the panel is over to the slide that I'm trying to look at. Okay. You can see Bambrick Drive, Bambrick Road coming down and connecting into Reg A Court, and the sites and the lots that are already divided between Margeston and Reg A. Advance, please. These site photos show the neighborhood context. The view at the left is taken from the end of the proposed driveway to the site, showing the view to the end of Reg A Court. So you're looking towards Sackville Drive. The view on the right-hand side is again taken from the proposed driveway into the site with a view looking up Bambrick Road. Next slide, please. The planning policy overview. During this application, a number of plans were looked at that guide development in HRM. The overarching plan, the regional plan, guides where population growth and the investment of services such as transit, pipe service, pipe water, and sewer should be located. And the subdivision bylaw is also a municipal-wide regulatory device. The community plan, next slide, please. The community plan, more at a local level, in this case, the Sackville Municipal Planning Strategy, outlines where, how, and which types of development may occur. Some uses may only be allowed after community consultation with council approval. Next slide, please. The land use bylaw, or the document that applies the zoning to the lands, specifies what can be approved without going to council and seeking feedback from the public. And in this case, we have the Sackville Land Use Bylaw, whose regulations we used as a guide to negotiating the development agreement. Next slide, please. The development agreement has a fairly long path before we get here to the public hearing. First of all, the application is completed. It goes through a staff review, and that's more than just planning staff. That goes out to a lot of staff members within HRM. Everyone who has a concern about the development has an opportunity to comment. After that's complete, we do public engagement, and we try to tailor it to the application itself. Once the public engagement is completed, the planner analyzes the information from the team review and what we heard from the public, and negotiate the development agreement. And once that's finalized, we prepare a staff report to bring to community council. Notice of motion is made to bring it to a public hearing, and that is where we are tonight. The decision, whether approved or rejected, is subject to a 14-day appeal period to the UARB. Next slide, please. Part of the planning overview, we look at whether municipal sewer and or water are available, and yes, it is. The zone applied to the lands in this case is C2A, or minor commercial. The designation under the land use under the municipal planning strategy is urban residential and rural residential, just a small part of rural residential. The existing use of the lands is currently undeveloped, and the enabling policy from the municipal planning strategy is UR8, and we will talk a little bit more about that. Thank you. Next slide. Enabling policy UR8. It enables council to consider proposal for apartment buildings in the urban residential designation that are not otherwise enabled by the applied zone. Council must consider the following in rendering their decision. They have to look at the adequate separation distances from low density residential. They look at the compatibility of height, bulk, lot coverage, and the appearance of adjacent buildings. Site design features, including landscaping, the amenity area, and driveways, are they of an adequate size and design for the proposal? Is there a preference for site in proximity to schools, recreation areas? Are central services available and capable of supporting the development? Are appropriate controls established to address environmental concerns, including stormwater controls? Is there direct access to a local street, minor collector, or major collector on map 3 of transportation map? This is a map in the MPS. Is it being considered on lands which are presently developed for either single or 2-unit dwelling purposes, or intended to replace a single or 2-unit dwelling when demolished, removed, or destroyed by fire? What is the impact on traffic circulation, siting distances, and site entrances? And what is the general maintenance of the development? And all of this is subject to the provisions of policy IM13, which is applied to all rezonings and development agreements. This is an image of the proposed development. This is showing the facade that faces onto Reg Eg Court. The applicant who's here this evening will be explaining his design and how it is proposed to function in the community. Next slide, please. This is a proposed site plan, which is the Schedule B from the development agreement. I've pointed out a few things with red arrows, just because the type on the map itself, the plan were so small and difficult to read. You can see the proposed concrete sidewalk along Sackville Drive. There's soft landscaping in the upper and lower part of the site near the building. The perimeter tree planting is outlined. This will be a planting that goes around the complete boundary of the site. And the species will be determined by the landscape architect who does the landscape, the required landscape plan. There's an amenity area pointed out over to the left-hand side of the surface parking. The rear entrance or secondary building entrance off the parking lot is pointed out. They have paid some attention to the design of this entry, and also the front entry or primary entry off of Reg Eg Court is pointed out. The ramp to the below grade parking is pointed out, and the stair enclosures at either end of the building are shown. To the left-hand side of the site, you see a thin red line, and that is encompassing the wetland that appears on the site. Next slide, please. An independent wetlands assessment was carried out in May of 2019 to delineate any regulated wetlands or watercourses on the site. The report stated that a shallow open water body, primarily on the site on the southern property, was present. Wetland conditions identified by tussock sedge and shallow water, standing water, were confirmed. It was determined water was received from roadside drainage sources, namely culverts coming in from road ditches. However, no outlet was observed. It is not a watercourse or contiguous to a watercourse, and therefore does not require a riparian buffer. At building permit stage, detailed civil drawings must confirm the presence of this wetland and show that it does not impact, that the site does not impact the surrounding natural areas. Next slide, please. The level of engagement completed was consultation with the public through site signage, active application webpage at halifax.ca, and a mail out notification. We mailed 44 notifications, and we received 3 unique calls and emails, and the webpage itself received 340 unique views. Next, please. The public engagement feedback. There was support of the proposed 6-story height, but should use plantings and trees to make it more compatible with the surrounding area. The 6-story building directly beside primarily older single unit dwellings is not ideal. Place speed bumps on Bambrick Road and lower the speed limit. Put blind crest signage and speed bumps leading into the subdivision. Add more streetlights on Bambrick Road and Reg Eg Court. Next, please. Consider sidewalks on Sackville Drive because of the increased number of pedestrians. The wetland should be disturbed as little as possible because of the wildlife that gathers there. And there was concern that excavation will have adverse effect on the on drinking water. The use of salt on the parking lot must not enter into existing water wells, and they would like city water extended to Reggae and to others on Bambrick. Next slide, please. The changes made in response to the public feedback, the number of dwelling units was reduced to 98. The floor plate area of the overall building was decreased by 300 square meters to reduce the perceived bulk. A two-story street wall was added to the building, and a number of vertical bays were reduced to increase compatibility with local character. And I'm hoping the architect will describe what we mean by reducing the number of vertical bays. The sidewalk is proposed adjacent to Sackville Drive for future connections, and a landscape buffer is to be provided adjacent to all property boundaries. The elements of the development agreement. The agreement addresses the permitted land use, the building siting and architectural requirements in the form of the schedules and the sections in the DA itself, the amount and location of amenity space, parking, circulation and access, and outdoor lighting and signage, and the landscaping requirements, including a landscape plan, which is required to be prepared by a landscape architect. Next. The agreement also includes a non-substantive, two non-substantive amendments, and a non-substantive amendment is a change to the agreement which can be made without a formal public hearing. The development officer or community council could authorize this change by resolution. These include, in this particular DA, granting time extensions for both commencement and completion of the project, and changes to the landscaping and architectural requirements. Next slide, please. The staff recommendation contained in the staff report arrived after a detailed analysis of all relevant policies of the regional and local municipal planning strategies. Staff recommend that Northwest Community Council approve the development agreement, which shall be substantially the same form as set out in attachment A. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Thank you for that presentation. I'm going to open up the floor to any questions of clarification from our council members. I'm not seeing any questions for clarification, so I will open.
I'll just jump in then. I typed something into the chat. I'm sorry.
I see that now, Councillor. I was looking for your hand. No problem. You go right ahead, Councillor Russell.
Okay, thank you very much. There are two wetlands right there. One of them goes onto the property and the other one is immediately north of the property and looks like it is far closer to the development than the one that's on the property. I'm wondering what sort of consideration, what sort of discussions have been had to make sure that those wetlands are going to be protected, and that there would be either little or no disruption to those wetlands, either during construction or after construction.
Madam Chair, through you to the councillor. The wetlands at the northwest boundary of the site are totally on the abutting property. They serve Atlantic Gardens, and it is a man-made watering feature for the plants that they raise on the site. So it is more of a reservoir and plant feeding situation than a functioning wetlands. The wetlands at the southern boundary, which is mostly on the abutting site, is it's not large enough to be mapped on Schedule D of the land use bylaw. It is under 2,000 meters in 2,000 square meters in area, and the proposed setback by the applicant is 7.7 meters. The when the application goes through the permitting process, it will be determined if the building is, if the proposal is too close to the wetlands or within the wetlands, but there is really no, there is at this time only, they review the study that we sort of looked at a bit of by the consultants. They look at that to see what kind of wetlands it is and then determine how close a building may go to this shallow, muddy wetland.
That is, thank you very much, Daryl, for both of those. The one that's on the property, the 7.7 meters, is after construction. And my concern is also during construction. Presumably they would not be going, keeping the 7.7 meters away. They would be chewing into that a little bit so that they could build the concrete wall at 7.7 meters. So I'm wondering if discussion has been had about how close it would be getting during construction.
Councillor, I have had during the team review process, there was no discussion on setback distance for construction. This is something that's always managed at the permitting stage, and we just didn't get into it at the team review period.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Counselor. Potentially our applicant can speak to that as well. So seeing no further questions or clarification, I will open the public hearing and invite our applicant to address Community Council for 10 minutes. John Dibb, I believe you're here from Leland Ferris Architect to speak and make a presentation. There's John. Hi, John. Did you need to share your screen tonight?
Yeah, I can share my screen.
Perfect. Thank you.
Just give me it says only hosts can share a screen.
Yeah. Krista, just looking to you to give John permission to share his
That's
screen.
been done. John, you should be able to.
Great. Thank you.
Can you see my screen okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of Council. My name is John Dibb, and on behalf of WM Ferris Architects and our client, I would like to welcome you, staff, and community members to our proposal for a multi-unit development at 1562 Sackville Drive. The proposal is located in Middle Sackville near the north end of Margesson Drive. Many local service and light industrial uses can be found in the area, as well as a variety of housing types ranging from single-family dwelling units to multi-unit residential developments. In addition, various recreational and institutional uses such as Sackville Heights and Millwood High School are also within a short distance from the site. The proposed development is situated on roughly 97,000 square feet of vacant land on the south side of Sackville Drive with access from Redkay Court. Commercially zoned properties containing a mix of service and industrial uses along Sackville Drive complement the increased density of the proposed development, while lower density uses mentioned before are buffered from the building by large areas of landscaping. The location of the building on the site is intended to promote the future pedestrian functionality of Sackville Drive by placing the building closer to the street and locating vehicular access off Redkay Court. Siting the building in this way provides greater buffers facing existing uses, while providing areas on site for outdoor amenity and soft landscaping. Siting the building in this way also provides a greater setback from the shallow wetland present on the site to minimize any impact from the proposed development, meeting the wetland setback as stated in the land use bylaw. At grade, the building provides a variety of unit types and sizes that are accessible from both private entrances as well as the main building lobby that extends from Sackville Drive to Redkay Court. The main level includes 2 indoor amenity spaces to serve residents and provide them with spaces for shared recreation. These amenity rooms are also located near the area reserved for outdoor amenity uses to provide residents with a natural landscape and access to existing features. Level 2 is a similar floor plate with units ranging from 1 to 2 bedrooms to allow for a mix of unit types and layouts. The size of the units on these levels is intended to provide residents with larger livable areas compared to units of this type in other parts of the city, ranging from approximately 700 square feet up to 1,000 square feet. Levels 3 to 6 of the proposed building incorporate larger units to accommodate a variety of family types, sizes, and needs. These larger units provide the area with much needed family type units, increasing to approximately 1,250 square feet in size. And of the 98 units in the building, a minimum 40% of these will be 2 bedrooms. From Redgate Court, we can see how the massing of the building is designed in a way to reduce the overall scale and bulk of the proposal, breaking the building up into various parts by introducing a variety of materials and step backs. Brick is used to provide a pleasant and high-quality facade at the pedestrian level with a pronounced building entrance to emphasize the location of the building's main access. A similar treatment of materials is used facing Sackville Drive to articulate the facade and address the future pedestrian scale of the street with multiple recesses and projections. The design of the building in this way emphasizes multiple fronts, treating Redkay and Sackville Drive in a similar way to create multiple main facades. Again, the use of a variety of materials and step backs in conjunction with alternating building forms helps break up the facade into smaller sections to provide a design that reduces its visual impact on existing surrounding uses. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Wonderful. Thank you, John, for that presentation. I would invite any community council members to put their hand up or in the chat. There we go. Councillor Paul Russell, you've got the floor to ask a question of clarification, please.
Thank you. It is effectively the same question about the wetland, and since most of it has been resolved, I'm just wondering about during construction.
Yes.
Do you know how close it would get to the wetland?
So the provision, I'll just circle back to the site plan. So yes, that 7.7 meters would be the setback after construction. The bylaw, the way it's written, is a minimum setback of 6 meters, and within that, nothing can be disturbed. So by setting the building back 7.7 meters gives us about 6 feet during construction to be able to excavate and eventually build that wall where it needs to be, because within that 6 meters, nothing can be disturbed.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other questions from councillors, we're going to move on to our speakers who have signed up. So I'll just very quickly review the rules with regards to speaking. We are virtual, so we have support from Simon, who's going to help us bring people into the meeting. We do have 2 speakers, and I do ask that you keep your comments respectful and on topic, and please direct them to me as the chair. And we also do want you to know that you have 5 minutes to speak, and you will get kind of a little call when you've got 30 seconds left. So you just may want to listen to that. We do have 2 speakers, Nathan Wise from Sackville and Joseph Kirby from Sackville. So I will ask Simon if you could please bring Nathan Wise into the meeting. We can see that you joined us, Nate.
Hi there, can you hear me and see me?
Yes, wonderful. Thank you so much. You have 10 minutes. You have 5 minutes to share your comments. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you all for having me. Really kind of excited to kind of share my thoughts tonight. This development on Reg K is really important to me. My family's actually lived in this area for near a century now. My family is actually the house we live in currently is the only lot that's actually developed right next to this proposal. So I have a lot of thoughts because it does directly impact us. Really wanted to start off just talking about that intersection that is going to be coming off of, now that it is coming off of Reg K Court onto Banbrook. That is coming off onto a blind crest. So when you're at the stop sign turning off of Reg K Court onto Banbrook, you cannot see the cars that are coming in from Murchison Drive that are typically going quite quickly because Murchison Drive is 80 kilometers an hour. There's pretty much every day, if not every other day, there's beeping of horns or near misses that we see right out of our living room window every single day. The introduction of 100 new units on top of Amazon deliveries, Instacart, Uber, all of these things is a serious concern for me that doesn't seem to have really been, it's not something that the traffic studies are going to catch. So that's something that I would like to see kind of addressed in some way, be that signage, speed bumps, something to that effect. Another major concern, as mentioned, is the water supply situation. It seems like a lot of the discussion has been around this being a part of Sackville Drive, but the reality is that it's in our subdivision, and all of the homes in this area are on well and they're on septic. We don't have access to municipal services. We don't have fire hydrants. We don't have sidewalks. We don't have any of that infrastructure that the other buildings by this developer in places like Sunset Ridge would have. And on top of that, those developments in areas like Sunset Ridge, directly across Margerson, are only 4 stories in height and much smaller, not 6-story buildings. So it doesn't seem like this is really trying to really fit into that sense of place, being one of the tallest buildings in Sackville in general, next to a ton of residential homes that, again, are on well and septic, and most of them are decades on decades old. So speaking to that, I would love to see this kind of go ahead. I would love to see some sort of development in this area, but scaled to fit a little bit better, even if it is a wider ton of development, but at a lower height. So it's not going to be, able to be seen from every home in the area, and kind of the largest thing you're seeing in Middle Sackville. Speaking to that wetland, I know Councillor Paul had spoken to it a little bit. That also doesn't really come from street side culverts. It actually comes directly from my backyard and goes up to Banbrick. So lots of concerns about what's going to happen there, because it isn't coming from drainage on the street. And if that is backed up or that is disturbed, it's literally going to directly affect my house. So that's another concern that, again, to me, hasn't really been addressed or talked about. And then, kind of further pointing to this, as I mentioned, my family has been in this area for generations. We own a number of lots on the Banbridge Street as well as Reg K. I'm the only one that received a letter to actually speak at this meeting. So it doesn't seem like there was a great job done about reaching out to those members, my family members as well, to give everyone that opportunity to speak. Finally, I just want to talk about a couple of other things. I come to a lot of these different meetings because very interested in urban development and things of that nature. Schools, of course, are always a concern. I know it gets talked about a lot. This is a lot of new housing, especially lifting the growth limits on Indigo Shores and things of that nature. There hasn't been any word or any talk of, schooling or anything like that that's been happening in this area, and the schools are already overflowing. So again, this is another large development. I know they're proposing for another apartment building across on Margerson right now, same developer, I believe, and there's still no talk of that. So I would love to hear something from the city as well, if possible. I think that's pretty much all of my notes. Let me give a quick check. Yeah, I mean, that's essentially everything. Of course, again, as Councillor Paul did mention, there is the wetland there. There's a lot of wildlife. We consistently have deers, groundhogs, everything you can imagine is in that area. So really want to make sure that isn't disturbed. But yeah, like I said, into close, I really do want to see something go here. It'd be great to have this area developed. The street's named after my grandparents. I would love to see something, beautiful built here, but it wants something that fits into the sense of place. And having family come home and seeing, this 6-story building next to, the houses that they lived in and the woods that they played in as kids, it doesn't fit in with Middle Sackville at that size. It just honestly doesn't. And so something that's 3 stories, 4 stories, like we see in the other areas in Sackville, directly across Margerson, where where they have transit, they have fire hydrants, they have all these things, that would make a lot more sense to fit into the sense of place. So I do really appreciate you all giving me a chance to speak. Happy to answer any questions. But again, thank you.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you for your comments. Really appreciate you being here. I do not see any questions of clarification from our counselors. So again, thank you for being here and sharing your concern and your very important comments. You have a good night. We are going to go to Joseph Kirby. Do we have Joseph Kirby on the line, Madam Clerk? We do.
I understand. Oh, Joseph is there.
Hi, Joseph. How are you?
I'm good. How do I turn my camera on?
It's a $50 million question. Depends on your computer, I guess. We can hear you, so that's a bonus.
Oh, I think it's, just give me a minute.
Yeah, along the bottom, you'll see oh, there you are. Look at that.
Perfect.
Excellent. Thank you, Joseph. You will have
Excellent.
5 minutes to share your comments with Community Council. Thank you. Go ahead.
Sure. So hi, my name is Joseph Kirby, and today the public, I mean, it's two of us, I wouldn't really call that the public, but the public is here to debate whether or not we should be allowed to provide our society with a 6-story, 98-unit dwelling in the middle of a housing crisis. And the answer to me is clearly yes, we should. If someone wants to provide a basic need to our population, especially in a time when we're suffering from a crippling housing shortage, I see no good reason to stop that development and continue to exacerbate that failed planning approach. I think this planning approach has led to unprecedented levels of unaffordability. And, we're in a situation where demand is skyrocketing, and we are stagnating the increase of the supply by continuing to uphold zoning that is far too restrictive. There is an established economic consensus on this from PhD researchers in the field of economics, and there has been for quite some time now. If you'd like good evidence of this, there's a small meta study you can look into that goes into this from UCLA called The Effects of Market Rate Development on Neighborhood Rents. It reviews recent research publications that have looked into neighborhood level impacts of market rate housing, finds decidedly that new housing stock relieves rent pressures. Economists call this the supply effect. And it shows how a broad array of research in the field of economics trends towards a conclusion worth listening to. And it's that zoning stops the supply of housing from coming through tangibly. If you block supply, you discourage competition amongst developers. If you discourage competition amongst developers, you allow a small few developers that are allowed to build to monopolize the market for themselves, giving them far more opportunity to increase prices much higher than they otherwise would if we upzone. This is not sustainable if we want housing to become affordable again. If there's concerns with signage, sewage capacity, infrastructure generally, that to me would mean that the city has an additional responsibility to provide that infrastructure rather than not provide that infrastructure and continue to stop housing from being developed. I'm kind of sick of hearing from friends of mine about how they've had to skip meals to pay rent. This is something that has happened to friends of mine both recently and in the past because they have a lack of alternative options for housing. And I'm tired of hearing from the older people in my life about how they'd like to even sell their home and find a cheap place to rent in the city to accommodate health issues they have where, they can't climb up large flights of stairs in their single family homes. So maybe they like to just rent an apartment for themselves, but they can't find one because they're not allowed to find one. And I don't think that we should want to stop upward mobility from happening. Upward mobility allows for more revenue, which can go towards more infrastructure that we need. And yeah, it's just not a mark of a healthy society to me. So not only should you all vote unanimously for this 6-story, 98-unit development to be constructed, as that'll allow at least 98 people to be housed, and the additional stories would otherwise prevent the developer from contributing to sprawl because the demand for those additional stories doesn't go away if you don't allow them to be built. But in the long term, you should all try to make dwellings such as this as of right development across the HRM. Every day that you do not, I believe, will ensure that the housing crisis continues. What you all did last week, all the councilors here and who are not here, that I thought was really great was you voted unanimously in favor of the HAF reforms. I think that was fantastic. And I would like to personally thank each and every one of you here and those who are not here. Despite the disagreements I have with a lot of planning approaches, I'm very grateful that you did that. I think it was wonderful that you all made that change. And I think it'll help a lot of Haligonians find a home to live in. And it makes me hopeful in the potential for you all to continue to make the right decisions and make further necessary changes. And I hope you all do the right thing and make one of those necessary changes here today by allowing this, again, 98-unit, 6-story home to be constructed in the midst of our housing crisis. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you for all of those comments. We really appreciate hearing from you. That's not often we get kudos. So that's nice. I do not see any questions of clarification from any community council members. So I will say thank you and let you get on with your night. Appreciate that. I am going to ask our applicant to respond if there is anything that John, you would like to respond to from our public members who.
Yeah, I appreciate both members for coming to speak. Just regarding Nate's comments, a lot of the concerns that were brought up, which are valid concerns, a lot of these studies, the traffic studies, the servicing studies, these are the responsibility of other consultants that have been hired on. And they've had these studies done and submitted to staff for their reference throughout the application process. At that time, or during this process, none of these studies that were submitted to staff raised any concerns. However, there is an additional at the building permit stage, should this project reach that point. Further studies are also required, which will further emphasize these points and dig deeper into these details.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Any more comments from our community council? No, we're good. I'm going to ask for a motion to close public hearing.
Moved.
Thanks,
Unless-
Councillor Russell. I think that was Councillor Oushead that seconded. I think our deputy mayor is jumping in. There you are. We lost you for a minute there, I think. No, we're good. Okay, so all those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Excellent. So we have closed the public hearing. At this point in time, there'll be no more speakers. If there are any questions that members of council wish to ask, but I'm looking, I think, to Councillor Russell to put a motion on the floor. No?
This is in Councillor Blackburn's district.
All right, Councillor Blackburn.
Yep.
You were asking all the questions, sir. Okay, there we go. And it is in the chat as well, Councillor Blackburn.
Oh, okay. So I move that Northwest Community Council, 1, approve the proposed development agreement, which shall be substantially of the same form as set out in attachment A of the staff report dated March 13th, 2024. And 2, require the agreement be signed by the property owner within 120 days or any extension thereof granted by council on request of the property owner from the date of final approval by council and any other bodies as necessary, including applicable appeal periods, whichever is later. Otherwise, this approval will be void and obligations arising hereunder shall be at an end. I so move.
I can second that.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Russell. Go ahead, Councillor Blackburn.
All right. Thank you all so very much. And thank you so much, John. I've been just back and forth with your office over several months with regards to this project, and can't thank you enough for the changes that you've made in direct response to the community. That's how we got the driveway off of Sackville Drive and onto the court there. With regards to Nate's concerns, I will look into putting a request in for a blind crest sign or traffic calming, so we can get a handle of that on that sooner rather than later. This is really the area where you want to see this type of development. It's it's right next door to commercial, a strip mall there that has everything from gas stations to a restaurant. There's a Tim Hortons, a pharmacy, and there's transit service right there as well. To go back to Nate's concerns about the water, the scope of this project is not going to be digging deep enough to impact wells in the area, and where this project is going to rely on municipal water and sewer, it's not going to suck capacity from the rest of the neighborhood. But if Nate is still there, something that I always recommend homeowners do if they are on well and septic and the development is coming through, spend the money, the 25, 30 bucks, whatever it is, to get your water tested, because then you've got a baseline. And if anything happens, you've got the documentation going forward. So I just put that out there. The other concerns about the wetlands, I think John was pretty clear that they have taken measures to make sure there's enough room between them, the excavators, and the wetlands. And of course, our construction bylaws do have other mitigations in place that will help protect those wetlands going forward. The schools, that has definitely been an issue. I know a couple of the schools in that area are now packed with they don't call them portables anymore. I forget what they call it. Modulars, that's it. A couple of the schools in the area have new modulars, but as we did with this project and all the others, when we get the application, we go to the Center for Education and tell them, hey, this is what's coming. What type of capacity do you have at the schools? And they have told us that it's not an issue for them. So we got to believe them. They tell us we got to believe them. And finally, just want to say thank you so much to the developer. Because John, I understand that some folks who have interest in the history of Maroon Hill have approached and are interested in getting some sort of interpretive panel installed on the property. Please excuse my my home office co-workers are a little rowdy here tonight. Anyway, so yeah, I understand that an interpretive panel that would showcase the history of Maroon Hill, the Jamaican Maroons who settled in the area, and this building actually is sort of the start of what was known as Maroon Hill. But it's my understanding that those conversations are ongoing between Stephen Goff and John and your folks to make that happen, and I've put my support behind it as well. So anyway, just wanted to thank you all very, very much for your hard work on this.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councillor Blackburn. Seeing no other comments, I'll call for the question.
Question?
Well, thank you, Councillor. Question has been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? All right, that motion has passed. Thank you so much. Thanks to all our speakers and to our presenter, and thank you to Daryl as well for the presentation. We are now moving on, Madam Clerk, to correspondence.
Yes, so correspondence has been received for items 10.1.1 and 14.1.1 and has been distributed to Community Council.
Wonderful, thank you so much. We do have that. Colleagues, does anyone here have a petition to table tonight? The clerk's office has not received any petitions.
That's correct.
Okay. Seeing no petitions, we will move on then to 11.3 presentations, and there are none. To public participation. Madam Clerk, do we have our speaker, and Andrew Nicholson?
We do. And he is just being promoted as a panelist.
Oh, wonderful.
He should be ready to go now.
So because this meeting is taking virtually, residents were required to register in advance of this meeting tonight with the clerk's office. We do have one registered speaker. And Andrew, you are here with us. No, I still do not see Andrew.
Okay, just give us one moment. He does look like he dropped off, but he may be trying to rejoin. We are going to try to reach out to him and see if he's just having some technical difficulties. If you are interested in moving on,
we can certainly move on to 14 reports. The 14.1.1 staff report, case 20507, amending development agreement for Bedford Village Paper Mill Lake subdivision in Bedford. There is no presentation with this item, but Matthew Conlon Matthew Conlon, I see you. You are here and you are available. Hi, Matt. Just in case there are any questions from community council members, I'm going to ask the District 16 councillor to put the motion on the floor, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that Northwest Community Council give notice of motion to consider the proposed amending development agreement as set out on the attachment A of the staff report dated May 13th, 2024, to allow for a 214 unit residential subdivision, one neighborhood commercial parcel and park and open spaces at Bedford Village / Paper Mill Lake subdivision between Morris Mill Road and 9 Mile Drive, Bedford, and schedule a public hearing. So moved.
Second,
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. That's been seconded. Councillor Elphick? Did we just lose Councillor Elphick? Sounds like a comedy of errors here tonight.
looks
Oh,
like it.
I think we just lost our councillor who was in the midst of, putting that
Yeah,
much.
it's almost like a connectivity issue this evening.
Okay. Well,
Tim out a cliffhanger.
I'm sure we'll get him back. Thank you, Krista, for helping us there. And since we do have a motion on the floor and a seconder, was there anyone else who wanted to speak to that while we get Councillor Elphick reconnected? Okay, seeing none, we will wait to hear from our District 16 councillor.
And I will say, just for the public participant, we reached out and we did leave a voicemail, so not entirely sure what's happening there, but
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that, Krista. It can be difficult with, with virtual, but obviously a lot of the times it's so nice to be virtual so that we can offer more people to participate rather than coming down to City Hall. I'm sure Councillor Elphick knows that he's, oh, there he is.
He is.
We've been waiting for you, Councillor Elphick.
I don't
It's
know. Murphy's
it's
Law.
been
Dogs
quiet.
bark or I lose connection the minute I need to speak. So thank you. I put the motion on the floor and I was just saying before I got disconnected that Krista could put up the proposed amendment on the screen, which I have circulated and shared with my colleagues as well. So I'm going to try and bring that up. It's a little hard not having a computer here tonight, but I am getting there. So
give me one moment. It does not want to paste the choice.
anything I touch, Krista.
Just bear with me, Counselor. I'm going to see if one of my colleagues can assist.
I've just put it in the chat.
I think I've got it in there now, Krista.
Yeah, I just put it in the
Thank
chat.
you so much. I'm not sure what's happening on my end, but stranger things.
No worries. Okay, we've got that. Did we lose Councillor out again?
No, I'm here again.
Oh, there you
Whatever I have must be contagious. I guess Krista caught it too. So I'm going to put a deferral motion that I've shared with you and it's now on the chat on the floor. I move that Northwest Community Council defer the decision to give notice of motion to consider proposed amending development agreement as set out in attachment A of the staff report dated May 13th, 2024, to allow for a 214 unit residential subdivision, one neighborhood commercial parcel, and parks and open spaces at Bedford Village / Paper Mill Lake subdivision between Morris Mill Road and 9 Mill Road Drive, Bedford, pending a supplemental staff report addressing the following matters as they relate to the proposed development. A new and updated traffic impact study to be prepared by the developer, which considers the potential impact and capacity of the Larry Uteck Boulevard roundabouts and the interchanges with Bicentennial Highway. B, an update on the proposed development for the remaining paper mill lake lands, both, and that is in brackets, the RCDD and the CCDD lands, and whether or not the current proposal could be considered as part of a comprehensive neighborhood planning process. And C, update on the future service community study. So moved.
Second,
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank
Councillor
you.
Lopez, did you want to speak to that, please?
Yeah, I won't speak too long on this, but this is a situation, a DA that has come forward several times during my 16 years on council. This actually was the last DA to be approved by the town of Bedford in 1995 prior to amalgamation. And it doesn't have an expiry date, so it's still in effect. The agreement was that a road would have to be, a number of houses were built in the area, and then the rest would not be built until a road connecting 9 Mile over to the Heavens Plains Road was developed. Since then, there have been a number of amendments, attempted amendments, of which the public has repeatedly come out against, with some reasonable concerns, and also some ones that I thought might have been able to be worked around, but that has not happened. What gnaws at me about what has come forward is that, first of all, a traffic study from 2019 would be way out of date with the incredible growth that we have seen in HRM in general, but particularly in this area since 2019, and upcoming incredible density in things like the Shanex campus and whatnot that would be using the same area as well. So I wanted an update on the traffic impact study. The second thing is, as you know, I got chewed out today several times by residents who feel that we never put infrastructure in place. We never put the plan in place before we allow development. And there are times when we are guilty of that. And there are times, and I have given examples to these callers and folks that contact by email, well, we did try to say before Bedford South could be developed, we had to do such and such with the interchange. Before parts of West Bedford, we had to widen the Hammonds Plains Road. The developers played a role in that, funding of that, etc. So what I am trying to do is to deal with this perception, which is also a reality, that we just allow development without really planning on how people are going to get to and from home. It's only 100 houses here, it's only 200 here, it's only 500 there. And we know the incredible gridlock that we have now getting into the Larry Utek roundabouts along the Bedford Highway, the Hammonds Plains Road, etc. So I'm looking for a plan to see how this, or could this, tie in with the lands that the developer also owns opposite the Bedford Academy on the Hammonds Plains Road. Because if these require a bridge and a road over, then that absolutely could connect into where these houses could be, or being proposed, and deal with the long desired by many residents connection over the Hammonds Plains Road. Flip side of that is, if it's not viewed is that it's not something we can do because of the congestion at the Hammonds Plains interchange, the Hammonds Plains Road, then we'll have that information as well. And that ties in with C of this, where we really are looking, and I know it's near and dear to you, Madam Chair, as well, as we have grave concerns about the growth that's coming in the paper mill area, the Sandy Lake area, Hammonds Plains Road, and the gridlock that we have getting in and out of there now, and people backed up onto the 102 at rush hours, which is not safe. So what I'm looking to do is seeing if we can tie this together as a neighborhood plan, enabling a plan for how people are going to get to and from these areas, maybe a transit plan, and just seeing if this attachment over, this connection over to Hammonds Plains Road is feasible, and then how soon it could happen because of those other two parcels. This is all part of what was promised and expected in the development agreement from 1995, which, as I say, is still in effect. If the developer wanted to build, we're not keeping them from building. They have a development agreement in place. All I'm saying is I want more information to do our due diligence to see before we consider any amendments to this 29-year-old development agreement. That's the end of my comments, Madam Chair. I don't know if others may as well.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have any comments on the amendment for the motion, the deferral that's on the floor at this time? no comments. Then I will just take the liberty to say a few words. This is something that's extremely concerning for residents in the Hammonds Plains, Bedford, West Bedford area. We do have the Hammonds Plains Road, which is completely over congested. We have an outdated design for an interchange from Highway 102 to Hammonds Plains Road, which is Councillor Elliott mentioned, backs up traffic all the way onto 102, which is completely unsafe. We also, of course, have overcapacity on our transit in this area in particular. Now, I do think that the connectivity into Hammonds Plains Road is very important. So having that knowledge of a 2024 traffic study as opposed to a 2019, I think would give us a better understanding or, to amend this development agreement. And at the same time, I think for this community council, we will have done our due diligence knowing that the Hammonds Plains functional plan is coming down the pipe. And staff recognize Hammonds Plains Road is over capacity. So I think this is real, quite frankly, the proper thing to do our due diligence to ensure a connection to that overcapacity. Hammonds Plains Road is even possible at this point. Yeah, that's all I have to say. I appreciate the amendment. I do recognize that a development agreement, being as old as it is due for an amendment. But that being said, the current development agreement is still on the floor and was approved, I think you said 29 years ago, 28 or 29 years ago. So just after amalgamation, around the same time as amalgamation, actually. So if there are no other comments.
Madam Chair, just quickly, you mentioned the Hammonds Plains Road as well. Well, I think you and I and many others also have the same concern about the Larry Utech West. And that interchange and that road, which even during COVID were at capacity, according to some of our engineers. So this is why I want to have a look at how is it reasonable to have additional traffic on there versus Hemsley Road or vice versa, et cetera, because right now it really is gridlock at both of those interchanges with traffic backing up onto the 102 to get to West Bedford, Bedford South, and of course Hammonds Plains. Anyway, that's my comments, and I agree with your comments.
Right, and they are backing up onto Kearney Lake. They're backing up all the way. Yeah, for many kilometers. So thank you, Councillor. So I will call for a question.
Question?
Question has been called. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Okay, that deferral has passed. Madam Clerk, you popped up. Was there any comments that you have?
Just that we've attempted to reach the public participant twice now, left one voicemail, have not heard back. Okay. Well, it's at your discretion.
I do appreciate you trying, and perhaps at the next Northwest Community Council, Andrew will have the opportunity to speak if something may have happened and he couldn't stay in the meeting. So if I do appreciate you reaching out and ensuring that he knew that he did have his 5 minutes during conversation. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Moving on to information items brought forward. There are, whoops, we already did that one. Sorry. Any motions, councillors? Anybody have any motions tonight? In camera, we have none. Items, we have none. Notice of motion appears we have none. Therefore, our date of next meeting, June 17th, 2024. And I'll ask for an adjournment, please.
So moved.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So thank you to our staff. We had a few IT issues tonight, but really appreciate everybody trying to figure that all out. Thank you, Simon, for working through that to get our speakers in. Excellent. Thanks to everyone for joining us this evening.
Right. Thank you so much.